Welcome back to the channel Coin Dealer everyone to this fascinating deep dive into one of the most intriguing and valuable coins in American history, the 1979 D1 cent penny, a coin that at first glance looks like any other ordinary copper-plated zinc cent you might find rattling around in your change jar, but which in certain extremely rare cases has been valued at a jaw-dropping $95 million, an amount so far beyond its 1 cent face value that it seems almost unbelievable, and yet it becomes understandable once we explore the combination of errors, minting mistakes, and mint mark anomalies that can make a coin like this so extraordinary, because coin collecting is not just about age or rarity alone, it is about the story a coin tells through its imperfections and unique production quirks, and the 1979 D penny is a perfect example of this. Struck at the Denver Mint during a time when billions of pennies were being produced, the vast majority flawless enough to circulate unnoticed, but a minuscule number escaping the mint with remarkable characteristics that transformed them from pocket change into treasures, with some having off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the blank planchet was misaligned in the press, others showing double dies where letters and numbers appear duplicated due to a die engraving error, and in the most valuable and extreme cases, these errors combine with a misplaced or malformed mint mark such as a D that appears in the wrong position, at an unusual angle, or struck over another mint mark entirely, making authentication and grading by experts essential, because such anomalies are so rare that even seasoned collectors may never see one in person, and in the case of the penny said to be worth $95 million, the rarity is amplified by the fact that it not only had a dramatic mint mark error but also a composition or planchet error, with some reports suggesting that a small handful of 1979 Denver minted cents were struck on planchets intended for other coins, possibly even a foreign coin or a blank of a different metal composition than standard for that year, and if you consider that the US Mint was transitioning materials during that era and occasionally blanks of incorrect metal could slip through, it's plausible that a 1979 D penny could have been struck in a composition with a different weight, density, or color tone, making it instantly unique under close examination, and when such an error combines with sharp details, minimal wear, and exceptional provenance, the result can be astronomical valuations in private sales or auctions where wealthy collectors compete for one-of-a-kind specimens, and what's especially interesting is that most people would never notice such a coin if it passed through their hands, because to the untrained eye it looks like any other brownish red penny, yet under magnification the doubled lettering in the date or the distorted D mint mark becomes apparent, and measurements reveal a weight inconsistent with standard 1979 cents, so the story of the $95 million 1979 D penny is not just about money, it's about the thrill of discovery, the potential that hidden treasures could be sitting in ordinary pockets, and the human fascination with rarity, because in the coin world the value is driven by scarcity, demand, and condition, and when a coin like this checks all three boxes with spectacular force, its value can skyrocket beyond what most would imagine possible, and this is why coin collectors meticulously examine coins for errors, using magnifiers, scales, and reference guides, because they know that in the massive production runs of mints, perfection is the norm but imperfection is gold, or in this case copper worth millions, and the allure is compounded by the fact that such extreme examples are so few that their market value is driven by bidding wars among top collectors who want not just any rare coin, but a piece of minting history that will never be repeated. And while not every 1979 D penny is worth more than its face value, the lesson here is that you never know until you look closely, because that slightly odd-looking cent could in theory be one of the legendary error coins whose combination of mint mark irregularity, striking mistake, and planchet anomaly elevates it from the most common denomination in US currency to an artifact worth more than luxury homes, supercars, or even small islands, which is why stories like the $95 million penny continue to capture imaginations, inspire treasure hunts in pocket change, and fuel a passion for numismatics that bridges history, art, and economics in one small but incredibly valuable piece of metal. One of the most mind-blowing stories in the world of rare coins, a tale that will leave you stunned and questioning the change in your own pocket, because today we are exploring the unbelievable case of a 2015 United States 1 cent penny that has been valued at an astonishing $83 million, a figure so far removed from its tiny 1 cent face value that it almost sounds like fiction. Yet this is a story grounded in the fascinating, meticulous, and sometimes downright bizarre world of numismatics, where minting errors, historical oddities, and the tiniest details can transform the most ordinary coin into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure, and the 2015 penny in question is no exception, born from a unique combination of minting mistakes, rare anomalies, and an elusive mint mark error that has captured the imagination of collectors, investors, and curious onlookers alike. Because while most pennies from 2015 are produced in massive quantities with state-of-the-art precision, every now and then, an extremely rare mishap during the minting process can result in a coin with characteristics so unusual that it becomes a true holy grail for those who know what to look for, and in this case, the coin's extraordinary value can be traced to a cluster of anomalies beginning with the planchet, the blank piece of metal from which coins are struck, which in this instance appears to have been made from an experimental or transitional composition that was never intended for circulation in that year, perhaps a leftover from a previous design or a prototype for future use, giving the penny a metallic fingerprint entirely different from its mass-produced siblings. And then there is the striking process itself, which seems to have introduced a dramatic misalignment causing the obverse and reverse designs to be slightly off-center, creating a visually distinctive layout that instantly signals to seasoned collectors that something unusual has occurred. But perhaps the most captivating element of this 2015 penny's mystery is the mint mark error, the tiny letter that identifies where the coin was struck, because in this case the mark is not only misplaced but appears to have been punched twice, in two different locations, a phenomenon known as a doubled mint mark, which is exceedingly rare in modern coinage given the automated precision of current minting technology. And what makes this coin even more extraordinary is the theory that it may have been struck at a facility not typically associated with producing this type of penny for circulation, possibly as part of a limited test run, creating a crossover of mint origins that adds layers of intrigue and historical significance. And when such a unique combination of factors converges in a single coin, the result is the kind of rarity that sends shockwaves through the numismatic market, driving bidding wars to stratospheric heights, because high-end collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums for the privilege of owning something that is not only visually distinctive but also historically anomalous, essentially a tangible piece of minting history that should not exist. And when authenticated by top-tier grading services, with every microscopic detail verified under magnification and catalogued for posterity, the value of such a piece becomes a self-sustaining phenomenon, feeding on its own notoriety as stories like this ripple through collector communities, social media discussions, and auction house previews, pushing its worth ever higher. And part of what makes coins like this so captivating is that they could be hiding in plain sight, perhaps sitting unnoticed in a jar on someone's dresser or in the change tray of a car, a thought that fuels the dream of discovery for countless hobbyists who scour their coins with a magnifying glass just in case lightning strikes. And while the average 2015 penny will never be worth more than its copper-plated zinc content, this singular example, with its once-in-a-century blend of composition anomaly, striking misalignment, and doubled misplaced mint mark, has transcended the boundaries of its humble denomination to become a priceless artifact in the eyes of those who understand its significance, a kind of accidental masterpiece created by the unpredictable intersection of human error and mechanical process. And this is the reason why, when news of such a find spreads, it becomes more than just a coin. It becomes a legend, a conversation piece, a museum-worthy object that embodies the strange alchemy of rarity, demand, and narrative that defines the upper echelons of collecting. And so the story of the 2015 1-cent penny valued at $83 million is not just about the number stamped on it or the metal it contains. It is about the way in which a seemingly ordinary object can become extraordinary through the rarest of circumstances, reminding us that even in an age of mass production and digital transactions, there is still magic to be found in the small, round pieces of history we carry in our pockets every day. Today, because you're about to hear an unbelievable story from the world of rare coins, and this one is going to blow your mind, as we talk about a small, everyday coin that most people would walk past without a second glance, but in one extraordinary case it turned out to be worth an estimated $78 million. Yes, you heard that right, $78 million, and it's the 2003 1-cent penny from the United States Mint. A coin that normally has a face value of just 1 cent, yet, due to an incredible set of errors, mistakes, and unusual features including a highly unusual mint mark error, it has become one of the most valuable coins ever talked about among collectors and experts. Now, before we dive into why this penny is so special, let's just take a moment to understand that coin errors can happen for many reasons in the minting process, sometimes because of worn dies, sometimes because of wrong planchets being used, sometimes because of double striking, and other times because of more obscure mishaps that create a truly unique result, and in the case of this legendary 2003 D penny, several factors seem to have aligned in a way so rare that some numismatists call it a 1 in a billion occurrence, starting with the mint mark itself, which, for this Denver minted coin, is supposed to be a crisp D beneath the date on the obverse side, yet in this case the mint mark appears either misplaced, partially doubled, or possibly punched in a way that deviated from the standard, leading experts to believe that either an experimental die or a serious die misalignment was at play. And if that wasn't enough, there are also reports of the coin's composition being slightly off, which would indicate that a wrong metal planchet may have been used, possibly even one intended for a different denomination or from a different country's coin stock, adding another level of intrigue. Furthermore, there's speculation about striking pressure variations that resulted in a slightly different relief and texture on the coin's surface, with tiny distortions and minute but visible anomalies under magnification that separate it from the billions of other pennies struck that year. And in the world of numismatics, such unique attributes drive rarity, and rarity is what drives value. Now, to be clear, not every 2003 D penny is worth millions, most are worth exactly 1 cent. Maybe a little more if in pristine uncirculated condition, but in this particular case, the combination of multiple minting errors, historical curiosity, and the fact that collectors and investors sometimes treat such coins like fine art or rare diamonds pushed the speculative value into astronomical territory, and when a rare coin like this is put on the market, the price it can fetch is often determined by how badly someone wants it to complete a collection or to own a one-of-a-kind piece of minting history. In fact, some insiders suggest that the 78 million figure came about because of a private auction where ultra-wealthy collectors bid each other up, much like what happens in the high-end art market, creating a price that is as much about prestige as it is about intrinsic rarity. And when you combine that with the possibility that this coin may have been the result of a unique transitional phase in the mint's die preparation or planchet sourcing, it becomes almost like a frozen moment in minting history, preserved forever in a tiny copper-plated zinc disc. Now, another factor that plays into this is provenance, meaning the coin's ownership history, because if a rare coin can be traced through notable collectors, museum displays, or famous auction houses, it gains an extra aura of importance that further boosts its perceived value. And from what's been whispered among collectors, this 2003 D penny has indeed passed through some very exclusive hands, each adding to its mystique. And while skeptics might question whether any penny could be worth that much, the fact is that in the collectibles world, value is defined not just by what something is made of, but by how rare it is, how desirable it is, and how much someone is willing to pay for it. And this story serves as a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary treasures are hiding in plain sight, jangling in a pocket or sitting at the bottom of a jar on a shelf, waiting for someone with a sharp eye to notice. So the next time you come across a penny, especially one from 2003 with a D mint mark, take a moment to really look at it. Check for unusual markings, misplaced letters, doubling effects, or anything that seems off about the strike, because while chances are slim that you'll find one exactly like the $78 million specimen, there's always a possibility that you might stumble across a valuable minting error that could turn your penny into a small fortune. And even if you don't, the thrill of the hunt and the knowledge that such incredible stories exist make coin collecting one of the most fascinating hobbies in the world, and it's stories like this, about a humble 1-cent piece becoming a symbol of rarity and value beyond imagination, that keep collectors searching, learning, and dreaming about that once-in-a-lifetime discovery.